Good morning, good brother. What's up with you?
What's up, King? How's it going?
Man, it's going. It's Friday. I'm still a little high on the news that you gave me. Potential situation. I'm still hyped about that.
Oh, a little bit
And
of a okay, a little bit of a teaser. We can't give it to him yet, though.
no,
We
can't
can't
give
give
it
it
to
to
him
him.
just quite yet. Plus, you got draft next week, so it's a good time to be involved in all things sports
Fact.
commentary right now. What's up with you?
That's fact. That's fact. Oh, I'm good, man. No complaints. Living life, family's good. Kids are healthy. I'm out here in North Carolina. Every once in a while I come out to North Carolina. My youngest son, we're celebrating his what will be his 13th birthday. Man, time is flying, bro.
That's crazy.
13,
Mine's
unbelievable.
my oldest will be 13 this summer, believe it or not. So shouts out to the teenagers that's we're about to have, man.
Yeah,
Happy
we got
birthday
some
to the
new
Buck.
teenagers, man. We thank you, brother. We'll pray for each other because we got some teenagers going on.
Well,
So,
pray for me
but what
right
up,
now
everybody? We talk.
with the newborn. That's what I
Yeah.
need.
No, listen. What you need is sleep, but you ain't gonna get it. So ain't no point in me praying for you to get it, my brother, because it ain't gonna
It ain't.
happen.
It ain't, bro. It ain't. Anyway, we also could pray for these damn Cowboys in the NFL draft because they need a lot of things here. They only got X amount of picks, but they did address a need, and they did it in the most Cowboy way right before the draft with this Royce Freeman signing. And I wanted to get your opinion, your take on this thing, and how he fits with the team.
Well, first of all, let me be clear in that the signing of Royce Freeman is in no way going to impact how the Cowboys approach their draft board. Not one iota. And as a matter of fact, it doesn't necessarily completely impact how they might approach free agency after the draft, depending on how the draft falls to them. But what they're looking at in Royce Freeman is they're looking for a power back. They're looking for somebody that can complement Rico Dowdle, or can be that complementary piece for Rico Dowdle. And what the Cowboys lost in Ezekiel Elliott, they're not getting that level of play in Royce Freeman, but the style of play is what they're looking at. They're looking at the fact that in the post-Zeke era, the 1 year post-Zeke last year, they had redundancy. There was too much redundancy.
Yeah.
We talked about this quite a bit. Rico Dowdle and Tony Pollard have basically the exact same skill set. They're almost the exact same build. So where was the sledgehammer for your sword, so to speak? It wasn't present. So with Tony Pollard now in Nashville with the Tennessee Titans, Rico Dowdle back on a 1 year deal, Cowboys are looking for that hammer. And as far as builds go, that's basically what Royce Freeman is. That is, he's not the tallest dude, but that is a unit when it
Yeah.
comes to mass. And he can do a lot of the dirty work, A gap, pick up blocks, B gap runs. He's not going to give you much of anything as a receiver out of the backfield, but that's why you have guys like Rico. That's why you have guys that you need to figure out like Deuce Vaughn. Hunter Lipke can give you that flexibility. But again, none of these names that I'm saying right now are going to stop you. And Malik Davis as well. Shout out to Malik Davis. But none of these names are going to stop you from going into this draft saying to yourself, hey, we need a running back that's going to be here for now and later and be able to produce. So, I see what they're trying to do with Royce Freeman. Doesn't move the needle for me, though, as far as what they need to do going forward.
It shouldn't it shouldn't move the needle, but they've done this before. And I'm not saying this guy is in the same ilk as say a Run DMC or Alfred Morris. Those guys were way more successful prior, but they brought in kind of that bigger back that we kind of looked at as no big deal. Next thing you know, Alfred Morris is on this team for a couple years. He's running as a second mate. Run DMC, he got a chance and he ran with it over 1,000 yards. Talking about Darren McFadden. Last year it didn't work out with Jones, but this is right up their alley, bringing in kind of that power type of back on a short term deal to go with a stable or a duo, or as Stephen Jones says, a complementary approach. So I'm with you. I don't think it should deter them from anything they want to do from a running back thought process in the draft, but him having that special teams, 164 special team snaps on top of being an experienced guy in the league, on top of having an asset that the Cowboys don't have right now from power. I don't know. I'm not ready to kind of just scoff at him. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying the nation at him and the possibility
Right.
of him being around. Well, once September gets here.
Yeah, not anything to scoff at because there is some value there, like you mentioned. And when I say it does, and this not you're saying it, but for those that might take it the wrong way, when I say he doesn't move the needle for me, I mean he doesn't move the needle for me in regards to see how are you approaching your draft board.
Right.
I'm going to approach it as if Royce Freeman is not on the roster. If at post draft, if you're saying, well, how are you looking at free agency? Well, I'm not going to put a strike through on a name like Ezekiel Elliott for a guy like Royce Freeman. Like, I'm not willing to do that. Does that mean Royce Freeman doesn't have a shot? No, that doesn't mean that, because like you said, he could come in and possibly make at least some kind of enough waves in training camp and preseason in that he earns a spot, especially in a Cowboys running backs depth chart that has so much unproven talent. And here's a guy in Royce Freeman who's been in the league since 2018. Denver Broncos, former third-round pick, played for the Panthers, the Texans, and then the Rams just last year. So he has a ton of snaps. And like you said, he also has a ton of special team snaps. So one thing we do know that if you're going to play running back 3 for the Cowboys, you're going to have to play special teams, or you're not going to get on that active roster, period. And this is where a guy like Deuce Vaughn struggled, not only in the special teams aspect and continuously being on the field for special teams in some capacity, because he's he's too small to be an effective blocker on special teams. But then guess who's in the way of him returning kicks? You got a Pro Bowl returner in Kevontae Turpin. So that means Deuce Vaughn would have to impact the game offensively, but when given the opportunities offensively, he didn't do much of anything. So the potential is still there, but it doesn't feel like it's coming together. He's going to have a huge camp. Malik Davis, wanted to see him take some real strides in year 3. He did not do that, and he lost some of those opportunities to Deuce Vaughn, who was struggling. Yeah. Right as it stands, the only name in that young version of the young section of the running backs from behind Rico Dowdle is Hunter Lipke, who I really do have a lot of promise for Hunter Lipke. So all things considered, like you said, whether it be Derek McFadden, Alfred Morris, the attempt on Ronald Jones that didn't work out, and now Royce Freeman, this is right up their alley as far as, middle of the calendar veteran acquisitions that they hope pan out. And on 2 occasions, Run DMC and Alfred Morris, it panned out for what they needed it to be. Last occasion, not so much. Will this one pan out? We don't know, but it's not going to impact what they do in the draft.
Got Patrick No C Walker, DallasCowboys.com, joining us as always for our scientific method. This is the final scientific method prior to the draft, so I kind of want to do some draft superlatives per se. I say ish because they're not all superlatives, but it is what it is. So let's kind of have a little fun with this thing here. All right. First one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, real quick before you continue, Tony, I see you. And I've said the same thing. Cowboys already owe Zeke. Well, they're on the books for $6 million dead money for Zeke right now. You might as well bring him back and give him the veteran minimum. I mean, you might as well. He's on the books. So again, we'll see how it all shakes out with the draft and going into training camp. I don't believe Ezekiel Elliott signs with any team until training camp. I think it's a situation where he's going to feel it out, see if there's some injury at the position around the league, and that'll kind of give him some leverage here, there, or anywhere. And I would look for a July signing for Ezekiel Elliott. But if I'm the Cowboys, I'm not ruling that out. I do want to see Royce Freeman now that he's on the roster. Let me see him in minicamp. Let me see him at least start training camp, see how it goes. But I would absolutely keep Ezekiel Elliott in a break glass in case of emergency scenario. Okay.
That opens up a whole different can of worms, Pat, that I'm going to have to talk to you about a little bit later. Maybe I'll talk to the fans about it too. But that opens up a different set of circumstances heading to this damn draft. But let's get into the superlatives. First one. What is your most underrated draft need for the Dallas Cowboys? Or what will be the most underrated draft need for the Dallas Cowboys?
So much is rightfully being said about positions like linebacker, offensive line, which goes to center and left tackle, running back, like we just finished talking about, interior defensive line, what's going on with Mozzie Smith? Is he ready to take those keys, et cetera, et cetera? I'm going to go cornerback. I don't think there's enough people talking about the cornerback situation. Now, when I say that, I'm talking about behind the big 3. And now, thanks, Kendrick, I can't say big 3 without the obvious line coming right after that. Right. But nonetheless, you got Trayvon Diggs coming back from injury. That's a huge return. Right. It's a huge return. You cannot overstate the importance and the impact of Trayvon Diggs, especially when he's returning to tandem with this version of Deron Bland, who already had a breakout year as a rookie, but then last year he becomes an NFL record setter. So that tandem is arguably the best takeaway tandem at corner in the entire NFL. You were able to retain Jordan Lewis. That's a bigger keep than most people are giving them credit for. Jordan Lewis got back to prime form. He's also back to forcing takeaways, and his confidence is there. His foot is holding up. So your big three are right there. Here's where it becomes a little bit concerning for me, or a lot concerning for me. Behind that big three, well, first of all, one of your big three, he's going to need some time to get back to form. Okay, it's very unlikely that Trayvon Diggs is going to be the record-setting Trayvon Diggs effective the first weekend in September. You're going to have to give him some time. So that's one. Two, Stephon Gilmore, still a free agent, still unsigned. I don't like that. I don't like it at all. I believe, and I've said this before, the Cowboys need to get Gilmore back in this building. Will that happen? It's uncertain right now. He's not signed with any team. Maybe he's feeling things out. Maybe he's waiting for teams to see what they can or can't get in the draft before he determines where he's going to go based on NFL needs around the league. I think the Cowboys need to get him back. But if they don't, then my concerns escalate, because what do you have behind your big three? Eric Scott, a lot of potential, a lot of promise. He absolutely has the dog mentality, but spent the entirety of his rookie year in development. Okay, so you don't have any game film on him from year one. Nashawn Wright, inconsistent. All right, so he has the length. He's long, lengthy, rangy corner, but we've seen him flash, and we've also seen him be compromised in coverage. Great special teams guy, but as far as being able to depend on him from a snap-to-snap basis defensively, there's something left to be desired there. And he's going into a contract year, so you have to have that in your mind as well. Will he be here in 25? Will he not be here in 25? So Israel Mukuamu, who I'm a huge fan of, as far as I would like to see them play him more at corner. But for whatever reason, they don't, unless it's a playoff game against Tom Brady, and then he helps shut down Tom Brady, and then what do? Move him back to safety? I don't know what's going on there. But can't put Izzy in the conversation for cornerback. So all told, still behind your big three, and then put the asterisk on Diggs because he's going to need some time to get back to form. Behind that big three, if Gilmore remains not in Dallas going forward, you got too much to figure out there. So I think that you have to go into the draft feeling like you got to get a cornerback. Now, with a premium pick, absolutely not. I'm out on a premium pick on a cornerback. But there are names on day three that would make me feel pretty good about that. So, it's something that the Cowboys need to kind of focus on, like a Josh Newton out of TCU, for example. He was also one of the official 30 visits. He's an outside press man. Ryan Watts, outside press man who can play some zone. That's the Texas Longhorn. And so look at those day three guys, and that could be, sixth rounder, maybe a seventh round flyer, or a high priority undrafted free agent. But they can't come out of next weekend without addressing the cornerback position. Not even double dip. So if you got one in the sixth round, but you were also able to get one or two in undrafted free agency, however you do it, just make sure you do it.
So that's interesting because I didn't include this when I sent it to you, but as a surprise first round position, it sounds like cornerback could be, but you're ruling it out as a premium pick. So if it's not cornerback, which I do think is a very sneaky, underrated need, what would be a surprise first-round position for you that the Cowboys could take this year?
Surprise first-round position would be wide receiver. And I say that because wide receiver is a need. It's a sneaky need. It's not as sneaky as cornerback because there are actually conversations being had, media-wise and between like myself, you, KD, Joe, our friend Joey. I mean, Matt Owen, who's probably in the chat room as well. Like, we're talking about wide receiver being a need. So I don't think that that's sneaky and underrated like cornerback. I just don't see enough people talking about cornerback, and it makes me uncomfortable. But wide receiver, the Cowboys have enough of a need there that if, the right, and I don't want to say the wrong guy, but if the right guy fell, could it be a CeeDee Lamb type situation? Now, I don't see that happening, but then again, we didn't see the CeeDee Lamb situation happening either. So, I mean, obviously Marvin Harrison is not going to fall down to the 20s for you to have an opportunity at him. So, we're not saying that at all. So, and it would have to be a Marvin Harrison type situation in order for it to be equivalent to a CeeDee Lamb at 17. But you're not going to see Harrison or Neighbors. You wonder if forgive me if I mispronounce the name, Rome Odunze out of Washington. You wonder if he or Brian Thomas
Uh-oh. We briefly lost Pat real quick. We'll get him back on here, Cowboys Nation. We'll give him some time to come back in here. But he basically was talking about how wide receiver would be a surprise first-round pick. It's funny because you listen to draft, whether it be the media scouts, whether it be scouts like us. I don't know if it would shock me or surprise me based off of it, but it is 100% up there in regards to needs. When we did our top 5, it made our top 5. I think we got Pat back here. Pat, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Went through those North Carolina tunnels.
Yeah, man, we're gonna blame NC Barbecue for that. Blame everything on NC Barbecue because it's not really barbecue. But to wrap up my point, I mean, there are some names there: Brian Thomas, Adonai Mitchell, Troy Franklin out of Oregon. They don't draft Georgia players, but I'll throw it out there anyway because go Dogs. Ladd McConkey.
Man, I love Ladd McConkey, man. Oh,
you gotta love Ladd McConkey. He's the best footwork in the entire draft. But as far as the complete package, obviously there are better complete packages like a Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors. But McConkey, his only knock is that he's basically a true slot. You're not really going to see him playing outside at the NFL level. But if you're talking about someone who has the ability effective immediately to be arguably the best slot receiver in the entire league, that's a Ladd McConkey. But, I mean, again, I think that the Cowboys do need a receiver. So that would be one that it's not impossible, depending on who that player is. It would have to be pure BPA, someone that is undeniable, like a CeeDee Lamb staring them in the face. So is it impossible? No, because CeeDee Lamb's situation exists. But is it likely? Not at all.
All right, here we go. We got another one here. This first-round pick, we're staying in the first round, will have me doing backflips.
You said first round?
First round. Yep. Cowboys first round selection will have you doing in a good way. You're doing backflips.
In a good way. I thought about this for a second, and I kept going back and forth between like 2 and 3 names. But then ultimately, I realized that each one of those 3 names were on the offensive line. So let's go offensive line.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. I'm just going to wrap it up into a bow, into a package that says offensive line. If the Cowboys get an impact offensive lineman in the first round, I will do backflips. I understand that there might be a better skill position available, whatever the case may be. You are now in a situation, if you're Dallas, that you were in going into the 2011 draft, where your offensive line was, basically in shambles for the most part. You had Romo running for his life. So what do? You get Tyron Smith, and then over the course of a 3 to 4 year draft, you get Tyron Smith, you get Travis Frederick, you get Zach Martin. Okay, we're back at that situation again. You have Zach Martin, but as I wrote in my high-low piece as it relates to the interior offensive line, it's time to start talking about the post-Zach Martin era, both contractually and age-wise, okay? I don't know how many times I can fire this warning flare, but I'm telling you guys, start talking about the post-Zach Martin era. Maybe that's a TJ Bass situation. Maybe it's a Brock Hoffman. We don't know, but the fact that you don't know, there you have it right there. So your offensive line, you have to figure out left tackle. You have to figure out the starter at center. You have to figure out the post-Zach Martin era at right guard. Too many question marks. So whichever direction you go, whether it be, and again, they don't draft Georgia players, but okay, a guy like Amarius Mims, right? A guy like Talisa Fuega out of Oregon State, Matt Goncalves out of Pitt. A sleeper, I would say, that some need to keep an eye on, Dominic Pooney out of Kansas. Shout out to Jayhawks, Rock Chalk. That's somebody that I don't think fans are talking enough about as a possible, day 2 selection or option for the Cowboys. So, or let's talk about the Thanos in the room, Jackson Powers Johnson. Okay, let's talk about going back out to the edge, Graham Barton out of Duke. I mean, these are names that if any of these names were called, except for Pooney, that would be a reach in the first round. But outside of Pooney as a first-round option, any of those other names I called in the first round, if you pull the trigger on one of them, I don't have any complaints because you are now telling me and showing me that you're ready to start rebuilding this offensive line for the next decade.
Man, there's definitely a handful of them. Actually, more than a handful in that first round I'll be great with. The interior guys you named, I would 100% do backflips on. But I just want, for immature reasons, I want the Cowboys to draft Pooney in day 2 or 3 of the draft, just so that
Shut up, man. You are out of hand.
I just want to be immature. That's all. No, but no, seriously, the dude.
But I guess what does it say about me that I knew what you were talking about? You are out of hand, bro.
Hey man, I gotta wake up.
We about to get FCC.
No, we're fine. We're fine. We didn't go there. We didn't go there. We're fine. Use your imagination, Cowboys Nation. All right.
Facts.
All right, one more, or not one more. Actually, 2 more, if you will. All right, we did first round. We've been talking about these first round picks. Give me your second round pick that will be more digs in terms of success than, say, the Boss Mans, Tristan Hill, Randy Gregory, Schoolmaker, TBD still there. But you get the point. These second round picks for the Cowboys over the last decade plus have been hit or miss. And even when they quote unquote hit, those guys end up leaving. Connor Williams, Cheetah Bay Awuzie, these type of guys. So give me your second round pick that you think could come in here and have Diggs type of success. Pro Bowl, stick around for a second contract.
All right. Y'all ready for this? It's T'Vondre Sweat.
What? Oh, wait a minute here. I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, I know. That's the whole point. For me, it's T'Vondre Sweat. Hands down, the best 3 tech in the entire draft class. We're not even talking about him as. Oh, 1 tech. Yeah. We're not even talking about Sweat as a possible second round guy, if not for the off the field issue that he has going on right now, which we won't comment too much on because it's a legal matter. We'll let it play itself out. But the fact that that is present makes him kind of like a ready-made package for the Cowboys in the second round, because he will likely won't fall too far, but there's a chance that he falls out of the first round. But also, what do the Cowboys love to do in the second round? They love to take risks, right? So your Kelvin Josephs, like you said, Tristan Hills, and Randy Gregory's and guys like that. But when you look at the situation, Sweat will be coming in. Number one, he will be absolutely destructive from that defensive line interior. It's not even a question. Now, that being said, what's the rotational situation for him? Well, it's fantastic as you look at it, because Neville Gallimore, he's out of the building. He's in Miami. Yes, Chauncey Golston is still here, but it's a contract year for Chauncey Golston. What does his future look like? And can Chauncey use this contract year to finally break out? You don't know quite yet. But then guess what? We're not talking about this enough, so let's talk about it. Oso Digizua, whom I am a massive fan of. I think the Cowboys need to go ahead and lock him up early. They don't typically lock their guys up early. I'm impressed with what they were able to do with like Trayvon Diggs and Malik Hooker last training camp, but typically they don't. So if they don't lock up Osa early and he ends up departing for another team, then guess what you need? You need more interior line power and presence, and that's what T'Vondre Sweat would give you, not only now, but more so in 25, more so in 26. So I feel like that's a situation where Sweat could come in, be an impact player from minute 1, and have enough reps to show that he's dominant enough to earn a second contract. So I believe that he will be one of the second-round picks that you actually look back and say, you know what, they rolled the dice on that guy, and it worked out.
I like it, and I'll add this to it too. If Dan Quinn happened to be here, I might be a bit skeptical in the sense of I don't know that he valued adding more size, but I don't know if he valued developing that said position. Remember, he brought in Brent Urban, then he drafted Big Bo, and then he cut 2 years later. They drafted, I call him Big Country out of Arkansas, John Ridgeway. Then he's cut the same season. Last year, they draft Mozzie Smith to play that big role, and they said, hey, dog, we actually value your pass rush more. You're in the first round. We need you to do some more pass rushy things, and that didn't work out. Zimmer? No. Mike Zimmer's a whole different story. Zimmer values those big fat boys, and he wants them to two-gap. He wants them to take up these blocks behind or in front so the guys behind them can have clear lanes to run down. So if Zimmer happens to be around for more than a year, or if the next guy that comes in, if Sweat, obviously, between the ears, maturity, and things like that, if Sweat is used in that manner, which I don't see why he wouldn't be because he's huge. I don't think you can ask him to be a pass rusher. I think he could eventually be a guy that sticks around, but it'll come down to me between the ears. The talent's there. The drive. Yeah, I don't know 100%. Him, so I need to know that he is driven to be great.
100%. And for all intents and purposes, this most recent off-field issue is obviously it's a red flag, but It's not something that ties into other off-the-field issues that he's had. I mean, think about it. Have you heard before this DUI allegation, have you heard of any off-the-field issues with T'Vondre Sweat? I have not.
Yeah.
Not to say others have not, or haven't, but I have not. So I think that, well, number one, I know that the football is there for him. It's just a matter of him growing up and mentally and on the field. And Mike Zimmer, there aren't many better defensive minds that you would rather put a young-minded guy like that with, who has such a high ceiling and such a high, ability to come in and impact the game right now as T'Vondre Sweat has. I think if you put him with Mike Zimmer, who absolutely loves his big boys, no Diddy, down low, then, you'll be good. Now, I will say this, because a couple of good comments in the draft, not in the draft, but in the chat. Someone mentioned that, potentially Chauncey could see some snaps at edge. I like that. I had that thought as well. He has the size to be able to do that. You lose Dorrance Armstrong, you lose Dante Fowler. Yes, You're looking for Sam Williams to step up, but you're going to need someone complementary to Sam Williams on the opposite side bookending. So I could see Chauncey getting some snaps there, maybe add some value there as an edge rusher. Switching really quickly to the linebacker, I know people are looking at Peyton Wilson out of NC State as I sit here and have this conversation in Raleigh right now. I cannot state enough. Yeah, I cannot state enough how much I love what that former Wolfpack guy brings to the table. But I also, in that same breath, I cover a Cowboys team that has recently lost Sean Lee to injury for his career, lost Leighton Vander Esch to injury for his career, saw Bruce Carter's injury kind of derailed by injury. The Cowboys have had an abysmal run. Jalen Smith, they've had an abysmal run of linebackers with exceptional talent who cannot stay on the field. So when I look at a guy like Peyton out of NC State, that just it's such a boom or bust pick for me. And I think that because of the Cowboys' bad luck at that position, I think that he could go to another team and be healthy for 4 straight years. And we'd be like, oh, look, he can stay on the field. But then he mess around and come to Dallas, and knock on wood, he wouldn't make it through like the first, 18 games of his career without losing some games to IR. So it's just bad mojo at that position for the Cowboys as far as staying healthy. So for me, I'm not out on him, but it's just too risky for me, knowing what I need and knowing what I need right now. So, yeah, I do love Peyton. I really do. But Edrin Cooper's a name. Cedric Gray. I don't think enough people are talking about Cedric Gray out of University of North Carolina. I don't know. I'm sitting here in North Carolina. I'm talking about all these guys.
A lot of these backers, yeah.
It can't be a coincidence. Okay, Cedric Gray, another guy, Tar Heel. He's a guy who can cover sideline to sideline. He can go downhill if you need him to go downhill. Then you have guys like Jalen Ford, Texas, Tyron Hopper out of Missouri. So you have other valuable names who don't present the injury and medical concerns that the Wolfpack does.
Yeah, there's 3.
That's just my 2 cents of that.
There's 3 injury guys that super duper talented.
Jeremiah Trotter, that's another one. Let's see, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., that's another one. Linebacker, absolutely.
Yeah, there's 3 injury guys that have the talent, but what a lot of Cowboys Nation would be like, man, one is Wilson, the other is Brooks, and the other is Latu. The defensive end. Yeah, Latu. All of these guys are uber talented, but they come with that injury risk.
Yeah, and it's a brutal position to play, and it's hard to stay on the field as a linebacker, but at the same time, you're tasked with doing that, especially for a Cowboys franchise that has had such a bad run of getting exceptional players at their position who simply cannot stay on the field. I mean, this goes back to the Dat Win days. Shout out to Dat Win, right? It's the Dat Win days when you have this exceptional talent in the former Aggie who his career was cut short. Guess what? By a neck injury. So the Cowboys need to, and I get it. Yes, he can play ball, Peyton, out of North Carolina State. He can ball. The kid is remarkable. But we're talking about bringing him into a Cowboys organization who has proven that they just don't work out that way. They often don't work out that way. So when you have other options, other equally capable options, like a Edrin Cooper, like a Cedric Gray, like a Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Out of Clemson, when you have other options who don't have those medical flags, I'm simply saying that I would rather go in those directions because of the organization we're talking about.
All right, man. We got one more. I want your final Cowboys draft hot take prior to next week when we'll talk. Because the next time we'll talk, we'll have the first round pick we're going to talk about. So give the Cowboys Nation your final Cowboys draft hot take for the scientific method. I know you'll probably have another show prior to that, but here on the scientific method.
Listen, that's a perfect segue because you just said that, next time we'll be talking about the first round pick. Well, hot take, the Cowboys might not have a first round pick because there's a possibility they trade out of the first round entirely. And here's why. The Cowboys are entering this draft with only 7 picks, but this has to be their de facto free agency because outside of Eric Kendricks, they haven't brought in anybody from outside the building except for Royce Freeman. But again, that doesn't move the needle. Eric Kendricks moves the needle, so he's the only needle mover they brought in from outside the building in free agency. So being that this has to be their free agency by way of the NFL draft, you need more than 7 picks. And the only way to get more than 7 picks is you're going to have to trade back once, maybe even twice at some point over the 3-day draft. I could see that, especially considering how robust the offensive line options are when you combine left tackle prospects and center prospects. There's a great likelihood that the Cowboys could trade out of their current spot. Maybe they go back to like 31, 32, and still have a great shot, and they will, at getting their starting center for the future, getting their starting tackle for the future. But if someone presents a package that's good enough that gives them, first couple picks, and one of the first top 3 picks in the second round, and they feel like they can do that and still get whomever they were going to get later in the first round anyway, I'm just saying don't take that off the table. Now, of course, that'll piss off a lot of people who are tuned in to see who the Cowboys pick on day one. And, of course, logistically speaking, it also means the Cowboys won't have the 5th-year control over whomever they pick because that's only exclusive to first rounders. But I'm simply saying, as far as hot takes go, ladies and gentlemen, don't be stunned if the Cowboys trade back and that back puts them out of the first round entirely. It's possible.
I love that hot take, Pat. And I think this would be, and correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, and if you remember correctly, this might, if they were to do that, that'd be the first time they've traded out of the first round during the draft since, Julius Jones, where they took him in the second round, passed on Steven Jackson back in the Parcells era, if you guys remember that. Now, they didn't have a first-round pick after that in 2009. They didn't have a first-round pick 2019 because they traded it for a receiver. But during the draft, they haven't traded out the first round, if I'm not mistaken, since the Steven Jackson situation, Julius Jones back in what's that, y'all, 2003 or something like that? Long time ago.
It's early 2000s, yeah. Long time. So it's possible. I don't think that they'd be looking – I don't think they're going into the draft with that being their plan A. I think their plan is to see how the board falls, but I do feel like they are going in with the thought process that we do want to trade back. We want to trade back.
I'm
they
down
want
to
to stick in
back.
the first round.
Yeah.
I think they definitely want to trade back in the first round, but I think they want to stay in the first round because this is a team that, again, it hasn't done well, doesn't have a great track record of signing their guys ahead of time. So I think they need that 5th-year control. I think this team needs that 5th-year control. And because of that, I don't think they drop back out of anything further than 32, but I'm just simply saying don't take it off the table because depending on who's still there, might give them enough confidence to do that.
Man, great stuff per usual with our guy Patrick Nosey Walker of DallasCowboys.com. Hey, enjoy your stay. Happy birthday out there in North Carolina to Junior. Is he a junior? I won't call him Junior if he ain't a junior.
No. Okay. So Patrick II, no junior. Patrick II actually turns 20 in June. This is my baby boy turning 13. This is Xavier. So everybody say happy birthday to Xavier Walker, and I will make sure he sees all of these blessings when he gets out of school today.
Happy birthday. You got to do the, you know what I mean? You can't, Stevie Wonder. You can't do it regular.
Happy birthday to
just make sure you got the head. You got to do the head thing with it.
Yeah, whole thing. Right. You got to have the flavor. Got to have the flavor. It's all about the flavor.
All right, bro. Appreciate you. Happy birthday to X-Man. And we'll be talking. I know we'll be talking over the next few days for a totally different thing. But we'll be talking Cowboys as well. And by the time we're talking next week, maybe we'll have a first-round pick. Maybe we'll talk about trading out of the first round. But either way, can't wait to talk about it with you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just hit me, and I'll let you go real quick. It's funny because scientific method. My son's name is Xavier, Professor Xavier. Y'all check out X-Men 1997.
The way you just put that together.
And that's how we rocking. I'm out.
That's Pat.